So now I'd like to introduce our guests. Neville Hormuz, Mark Braunstein, Scott Goree, Lindee Reese, Richard Cullinan, and Greg Cochrane. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jim, who's going to say a little bit of something, and then I'll ask each of our attendees on the panel to give a quick background of themselves and their connection with our musical history. So thank you.
Yeah, I don't have much to say except for Tom and I have we work with the Phoenix in Petaluma. Tom's been the manager since 1983. I've been doing things there since the mid-2000s, put on shows, I'm on the board and all that. And the Phoenix was, in many ways, like a beneficiary of the vibrant Cotati music scene. It's all sort of connected, and we're excited to just kind of be here to document this, because this is a great history, and what we're recording here tonight will be available online. So it'll be something that future generations who aren't even born yet can look back on and say, oh my gosh, I had no idea that was going on in Cotati. I mean, I think there's people who are young now who look at Cotati and it would blow their minds that the stuff that we're going to talk about today happened just 30 or 40 years ago. So very happy to be here. Thank you guys for attending. And like Ed said, I think maybe we should just have our panelists.
I'd like to extrapolate just a little bit more, though. When it was decided in 1984 and 85 that I was going to continue to do rock and roll at the Phoenix Theater, Ken Frankel, who was also a partner at the Cabaret at the time, suggested that I come over and learn how to run a club from Mark Braunstein. And I ripped off his style so well, I could not do what I do in the comfortable way that I do it without absolutely stealing it all from Mark. So this is how legacy works.
Legacy. I never knew.
Mark, if you don't mind just telling a little bit about yourself and your history here.
Okay, my name is Mark Braunstein. I lived in San Francisco from 1965 to 1970. Went to school a little bit, dropped out. One interesting connection that I had that I didn't even know I had was my roommate for several years in the Haight-Ashbury was one Stanley McDaniel, head of the philosophy department at Sonoma State College at the time, not university. But so I kind of knew that Cotati existed. And then in 1970, my employment ended in San Francisco. I had some friends who worked for Bill Graham. They wanted to live in San Francisco and they wanted to live in San Francisco and stop commuting from Sonoma Mountain Road. So we swapped houses. It was easy then. I had a nice cheap place in Noe Valley, and they had a lovely 50 acres property on Sonoma Mountain Road. And then my next step, of course, was to find work. So I knew that there was something called the Inn of the Beginning there that I believe had just changed hands. I drove down there, said, hey, is there any work available? No, was the answer. You can see we're knee deep in cleaning and coordinating and getting ready to open in a month or two, come back. And I came back in September of 1970, asked for a job, and became the sound man at the inn. And made some improvements and interacted with bands, and a couple of years later started getting involved with managing the club. I had a lot of connections in San Francisco and kind of knew what I was doing to a greater degree than Ward Meyart, who had purchased the club from Greg Cochrane did. But in about mid-70s, I bought the Inn of the Beginning business, mainly so I wouldn't have to look for a job, and kept going for the next 16 or 18 years until in 1982 finally closed down the Inn of the Beginning, moved it across the street to the old women's club, the Cotati Cabaret. I didn't destroy the building, but I removed every stick of furniture from that building just to make sure that nobody could just waltz right in and open up a nightclub and compete with what I was doing. Anyway, that's when I got involved with Ken Frankel, who owned the women's club, and was there 1982 until we closed it in 1989. And then I've been kind of out of the music business since then, except as listening to music and involved with the Healdsburg Jazz Festival for the last 10 or 12 years. But that's kind of my story as it relates to Cotati.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Well, my name is Greg Cochrane, and
It's all his fault.
yeah,
Yeah. I always said that.
and I want to thank all of you. Cotati really saved my ass. It did. I got out, came back from Vietnam. You too.
No, I didn't go to Vietnam, but I got out of the service.
We came back from Vietnam, and a year later, I was pretty spaced out. And went to school, came up to school. Someone said they don't give a shit about Vietnam or nothing at Sonoma State. They just like to have fun. That's the kind of place. So I came up here, and no shit, I mean, it was fun. It was just a ton of fun. You could buy marijuana right there on campus. The first newspaper said how to synthesize and make your own lysergic acid dianode. It's a beautiful newspaper. It's a great school.
That was the Clarion?
That was a Clarion, yes. Anyway, one night we were out getting high and driving around, and I was with David McNair and Laurie Driscoll and a few local guys, and we were driving around, and we decided we're going to go over to the Trade Winds over here, which is now Spanky's. Jerry was always very nice to us, Jerry Green there, and we went in there and started shooting pool and got higher and higher and more fun and fun, and I leaned against the wall next to the pool table, and it was an accordion door. And of course, I went right through the accordion door into this room like this. Yeah. I just fell into this room, and tables and kind of with sheets over them, and just a big, beautiful room. And I swear, right then, it might have been I was a little buzzed, but right then I thought, my God, this would be a great place to maybe do a coffee house or an inn or something like that. And I said, come take a look. And they all looked and thought, beautiful idea. It's a great idea. So the next day I came to see Jerry, and he gave me the landlord's name, Paul Spear.
Paul Spear.
And I gave Paul a call, and he said, come on up. Come on up. That's the way to come on up. And they got the address.
Wilson Street.
I went up to Santa Rosa, and there's this warehouse in the railroad district. And I walked in, and there was a guy working on a pinball machine inside the door, and it was a huge warehouse. And I said, he said, what do you want? And I go, I'm here to see Paul Spear. He goes, see it right there in the back of the building, up those stairs, just like in The Godfather. Back up, there's his office up there. So I went back and talked to Paul Spear that he hadn't rented this place in 10 years. It was the old Cotati Inn. And he said, what do you want to do? And I said, I don't even think he listened. He said, oh, that's a great idea. A wonderful idea. He said, you got a business plan, or how much money you got? And I went, I'm working on it. He said, come on back when you got a business plan and, some investors. Within 2 weeks, we made a list of 40 people. We got 40 people to invest at least $100. Some invested $5,000. 40 people. And I went back up and I said, I got this much money. This is our business plan. We're going to do kind of an inn-type coffee house. He goes, I love it. He said, how much money do you have there? And I went, well, I got about $20,000. He goes, that's not enough to do what you want to do. And he turns around, opens this big old archaic safe, pulls out a strong box, sets it on the table, and peels off $15,000 in cash. And he said, this will help you get going. I said, well, thank you. And he goes, no, it's not a gift. He said, you're going to pay me back. I said, how do you want me? He said, don't worry, I know where you are. So I went back and, got the liquor license and the business license and the whole thing going. And there was 25 people working on this place. It was just like Alice's Restaurant. I don't know if you ever saw that movie, but it was the entire community sort of came together. Someone would stick their head in the door and go, what are you doing in there? We're building like a coffee house. Can I help? Shit, yes. And so we had virtually 30, 40 people working on this place, and by the winter of just after the summer of love, we had this place opened. And it was truly amazing. It started off, we did a lot of food. I was the first one that sang there and really put everybody sound asleep. And I realized right then that wasn't my forte. And we had some theater, some improv people. It wasn't really until the Bronze Hog, you know the Bronze Hog, right? Until the Bronze Hog played there, we pretty much were sold out the rest of the time, and really the rest is kind of history.
Yeah, it is.
Just kept
It really is. I mean, it just took off like a wildfire.
and then kept rolling.
Just kept rolling because of all of you supporting it, the people here who helped. It was truly amazing. And one last quick story. The name, The End of the Beginning. Well, we were right in the middle of remodeling, and we were out at my little house on Sprower Road. We called it the Sprower Hour. And we were hiring a kite. And I went outside to take a break because I was so high. And it just came to me. The end of the beginning. And I came in and I said, hey guys, what do you think? The end of the beginning. And they all went, oh, fuck it.
Perfect. We can stop thinking now.
They were high too. I mean, I didn't know. But it really was. It was in our beginning. And it was a group of people who we needed something to do. Because we were doing nothing. So that's what we did. And here's the rest of the story right here. Thank you.
Great story.
That was fun. It's a great day to be here in Cotati and to acknowledge the historical meaning of the music that's been permeated this community for so many years. And I'm glad to be a part of it. That's for sure. And so Greg and I were talking earlier, but in 1968, I had just finished a stint in the service, and I enrolled in the College of San Mateo right away. And, within no time, I ran for office at the student council, and I ran for an office controller of student activities. And before I knew it, I had a budget to work with, and I was booking Fritz. I started with booking Fritz, which was Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham, for a noontime show, for free, of course. And then I said, well, I'm going to move up to some better things here. Then not long after that, I was able to book Santana, It's a Beautiful Day, and AB Sky Blues Band. My fellow council members, they said, now who are these guys again? So, it came out to about $2.50 for a student ID admission, so. Anyway, and then I started writing a column for the school newspaper, which was, so I was immersed in music at that time, and of course, and I just saw my friend back here wearing a little Princess 109 shirt, which is one of the great light shows of the Fillmore. At that time, worked for Bill Graham, but I was at the Fillmore in the Avalon almost every weekend, and you 6 hours of music for $3, and a loss of hearing for the next 3 days. So especially if you saw Blue Cheer. Anybody saw Blue Cheer? Oh yeah. Just like, please, turn down one of those Marshall amps. So anyway, things kind of fell into place. And next thing I was at UC Berkeley. I got accepted there, and I left with 1 semester to go, and I took a trip around the world. And when I returned, I had nothing to my name. And I moved into a house at Turok, I needed some money, so I ended up working at the Petaluma Poultry Processing Plant, and what a horrible job that is. I got to tell you. So I realized what they were making, and it was a union job. And I just said, for God's sakes, you guys are working around all this blood and you're making this money. So I started organizing. They said, get rid of that communist right now. So, anyway, I moved out of Two Rock and moved into a really wonderful chicken shack. And it was either the chicken shack or the bus on some property down on Eucalyptus. And then I got a job at Ashe Nu, and when I was not working at Ashe Nu, any of you remember Ashe Nu? Jean Remy was making some wonderful stuff, but I would pop over and see my friend Richard Farner. Am I in the right zone there?
Yeah.
Richard Farner, and of course he was everyone's best friend because he was the doorman at the end of the beginning. And so everyone said, hey, Richard, come on, I know you got room for one more. But somehow I got in and met Mark, and before you know it, I had a couple of shifts tending bar there. And I worked 2 different nights. I worked the jazz night.
Oh, on Mondays?
Monday the jazz night. So I saw really fantastic people in retrospect now. Mark Isham, who became a Hollywood.
McCoy Tyner.
Yeah, well, that's another one. McCoy Tyner, who was there and actually pounded on those keyboards so heavily they just detuned it or broke the piano. But and Peter Welker and Mel Martin and a whole bunch of others. And then, conversely, the other night worked was Wednesday night, which was like just complete screaming hippie maniacs. And
Those
two
were
bands.
Those were rock band auditions.
That's right.
Thank you, Mark. And I worked with a guy named Max who made it clear to me that he said, this is my domain. This guy was raising 4 kids, lived on Sonoma Mountain, and so anyway, I just let it go at that. But and it was very nuts in those days, and everybody wasn't always civil and behaved because a lot of people were completely hammered. And there was an occasion one time where some guy was knocking on the door. We were closed, and I had all I could take from everybody, including Max, who was bugging me. And this guy goes, I left, no, I don't see anything on the stage. Well, he came in and he pushed me down, and I completely lost it, and went up to him, threw him on the ground, and put a piano bench on his head. I was pretty scrappy in those days. Plus, I had a serious alcohol problem, which compounded the whole thing. And after that, Max was so polite to me. It was pretty amazing. But I worked some pretty wonderful years there, Mark. 74 and 75. My God, I mean, the Tubes, Fee Waybill, White Punks on Dope, and Jerry Garcia, who I used to sit there and BS with. He'd come in and nobody was around him. He just came in and just wanted to relax before he played with either David Gertzman or Merle Saunders, So those were wonderful, wonderful days. And, I still have images of all kinds of different people. John Cipollina smoking a Lucky Strike, and eventually, that would take him out. But a wonderful guy, Quicksilver, one of the really great bands of all time. But then I worked some really big shows, and I'm going to wrap this up right now. I worked some really big shows where you could barely move, and Max and I would just lose pounds serving all those drinks. And by the way, a good night was when somebody gave me 25-cent tip. Yeah, it's just like, okay, I'll call my travel agent right now. So, Cold Blood, Asleep at the Wheel, Tower of Power. Can you imagine that in that building?
Right
Yeah,
there.
and that was it.
Night.
So, huh?
That was in one night.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that was a big experience for me. And then after that, I took off and went to Central America for 6 months, and I didn't go back to the inn after that. But that time I had there was very memorable in my head. So I'll move on. But and I just want to say that that didn't stop my fascination and my connection to music, because then I moved on to the Jazz Festival for 10 years, working with Judd Snyder, and also went on the original board with the Cotati Accordion Festival back in 1991. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Is this working? Is my mic on? Yeah? Okay. Wow. This is bringing back some memories.
Yes.
I moved up here from Southern California, where I was raised, via Berkeley for a couple of crazy years in the late 60s. Got to Cotati in about, 1968. And, walking into the funky little town of Cotati was like stepping through a portal to a parallel universe.
Even then.
It really was. So I was downtown one day. There was a laundromat over where the Tradewinds is now, or one of those places. And I just turned 21, and I was doing my laundry, and I thought, hey, I'm 21. I can go across to the Winds and have a beer. And so I'm by myself, but I thought, oh, well, it's Cotati. And so I walked in. It was dark. I couldn't see a thing. I heard somebody going, hey, lovely lady, come over and have a beer with us. I walked. I finally saw it was Greg and David and John Burnett and a couple of other friends. And they said, oh, we can't let such a lovely lady drink by herself. So I sat down, and I said, yeah, what are you doing? And they said, well, we are in the middle of trying to get that place next door, and we're going to start a nightclub or a coffee house or something. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be the center of the Aquarian age.
That sounds right.
Which it still is. And so anyway, I got a call from David a few days later, and they said, we got it. We got the building. We're going to do it. And we all want you to work for us, okay? And I said, sure. I was at Sonoma State. My grant was running out, and I said, well, so how much will I get paid? I have to think about that. And David said, nothing. but Greg is renting a great big house, and we're all going to live there for free, and you're going to get all the rice and vegetables you can eat and all the beer you can drink at the end. And I said, I'm in. Yeah. So we did.
Attitude.
We moved up. Greg got this
beautiful, too.
Quonset hut on Olivet Road in the middle of a Christmas tree farm. And it was a beautiful place. And I think Lori lived there, Lori Driscoll, and a lot of people came and went. I'm not sure who really lived there. I think I did. But anyway, I went off after a little while. I was a beer wench. I was on the first staff, very first staff at the end of the beginning. And I wandered away, ended up in Colorado. And I don't know if there's any women's music aficionados here, but I met a woman named Chris Williamson.
Yep.
And yeah, and I brought her back with me. I said, you got to come back to Sonoma County. You won't believe it. It's just an amazing place. And I took her to the inn one night, and I had to talk Greg into letting her sing. He said, oh, geez, another girl with a guitar. I said, Greg, she's good. She's really, really good. And he said, okay, but 15 minutes, you better not clear the house, because I have another rock band coming on. I think it was New Riders of the Purple Sage that night or something, Jerry Garcia, And so he was gracious enough to let her sing that. She met her manager and her first record producer there that night. And that was the beginning of a whole other saga. But when I came back finally after another year abroad, I had fallen in with this crazy group of gypsies and Barbara Bowl, Barbara Penny, Beanie and Lulu, Lenny Dorgan, Edna Escamilla, David McNair, and we congealed into a band. And we called it the Gang Band because Lulu is from Chicago. She had a thing for gangs. and we were a band, and it sounded really dirty, you know, and we kind of liked that because we were in a kind of a vortex of women's liberation movement, and then there was then out of that came the lesbian separatist movement, and we went to, I think, our very first women's concert was in Santa Cruz, David, I think, and we were up there. We have David playing with us, and look around, and it's only women, you know, and we. And they started saying, "You have a man! Get off the stage! Get off the stage!" Say, but David's an honorary lesbian. But you know, we had to leave. We left because we didn't want to be part of that scene. You know, we were really we just wanted to have fun, and we did. And so also, Greg somehow let us get on the stage there, and we played for a good little audience. In fact, I think we filled the room. And so we were invited back several times, and so you know, I had a couple of, at least two different relationships with the beginning, and you know, it's so part of my story of you know, redemption and growing up and music and spirituality and love of this place that I've called home for many years, and the creativity here is, I call it the path of the dragon because it's like a vortex. You know, the creativity here is something very special, and I'm so grateful to be here. And thanks.
Right on, Lindee. Way to go, Lindee.
My name is Scott Goree, and my history is a little more Forrest Gumpish. I was born in Petaluma. It was one of the first hippies to crop up there, so Sonoma State seemed like a natural progression, which you know progressed. My only involvement back then, at the end of the beginning, was to go watch entertainment, and I was a regular in a poker game in the back room. I think George was the doorman. I think that had it. I can't remember. I don't know if that was
Richard.
What?
Richard Parner?
No, George.
George. Okay, sorry.
George,
I'm not sure if,
the baker.
Pardon?
George the bread baker.
George the bread baker.
I've forgotten his last name. That was 1972 or so.
Yeah, and there he had a poker game going in the back room. And, so I was a regular at that.
He never staked the house.
And so it's actually, I went on with to play quite a bit of poker. My late friend Harry Fogel and I made quite a big tour of home games for quite a few years there. And I don't know, just one thing going from another. And my good friend Jerry Schwartz had Jerome's Good Dogs across the street from the inn. And when he closed that up, when he left town, he came back, he goes, "I want to open a restaurant. Would you help me do it?" And I told him, "Sure, you know, only if you teach me how to do the restaurant business." And you make sure that I do half the work. Well, that was a big mistake. I mean, I really enjoyed doing it, but it was a lot of work. I couldn't believe how much work it was, but it instantly became successful. And my friend Muka had Prairie Sun Recording, and he was going, "You know, we got to take your talents up here. There's got to be a way you can help me out up here." He wanted me to go figure out how to be a promoter, go out and wrangle bands. And about that time, a friend of mine, Bruce Ackerman, had Joe Froggers, and he bought Magnolias, thinking he's going to have two places in town. And he knew that what I was doing up there at the studio, and he goes, "I want you to come in and manage Magnolias." And Cotati said, great idea, that's where all my bands are going to play. And this all makes sense. It's like I don't have any experience at any of this. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just kind of just, like I said, it's a Forrest Gump story. So I go to work there, I'm managing it. Within a year, I bought out Bruce, took the place over. Did it for 10 years. At the time, I like to think it was the #1 premier live music place in Santa Rosa. People who are fans at Studio Cafe would definitely disagree with me, but that was just, we overlapped just a little. But then it's like the end of the beginning came out of Dormacy. And that was a thorn in my side, and I went, well, I just want to take that place over. Well, and I ended up selling the Magnolias and taking over the end of the beginning as it came out of Dormacy. So that was from 97 to 2000. It was just fantastic as far as just enjoyment and being associated with it. And the thing is, everybody still wanted to play at the end of the beginning. Yeah. Because of what Cochrane and Mark had done, it's still years later, even coming out of Dormacy, it had not lost that allure where everybody still wanted to play there. So it was just easy as hell getting groups to play. People always ask me, it's like, well, who were all the great groups you had play? Well, I had a lot of good groups, but I go, but it's like 1 year of good groups for me. It was like a month for Mark at the cabaret. It was like two different things. We did a lot more local things. I did a lot of things associated with the college. I did raves. I did everything. It's like I found in Magnolias that you kind of had to do a different genre of music each night in a small market if you really wanted to be able to make it in the music business in Sonoma County. So that was all going great until after about 4 years being in nightclub business for almost 20 years, it's ended up with congestive heart failure, irregular heartbeat, and cardiomyopathy. So that's kind of forced me into a little retirement. After I kind of worked out a lot, got healthy. Next thing you know, I'm out to dinner with Clifton Buck Kaufman and Rebecca Brown and a few other people. And it was after the 2004 Cotati Accordion Festival. And they announced that they were retiring it. And I just went, you know what? I'm kind of semi-retired. And they went, you're crazy. And here I am today. I've been producing it ever since.
Wow.
So that's my, like I said, it was just one thing kind of stumbled into another. And it's just kind of making, lemonade out of lemons. And I'm really, really happy working with the Accordion Festival. Plan to keep doing it.
Beautiful.
Hey everybody, I'm Neville. I own Loud and Clear Music out here on Redwood Highway. And thank you all for coming out. And I've got to say, I'm honored to be on this panel with such people with so much history here. It's amazing. I come a little later to the game. I grew up in Petaluma, where I got in a band in high school, and Tom Gaffey actually gave us our first break, like lots of bands in this area, to play at the Phoenix Theater. So it's an honor to be here with you, Tom. And so I've played in a lot of bands. I've played at Magnolias. I've played at the end of the beginning. I was lucky enough to hit that in the 90s before it closed. And I've played at the Cotati Cabaret, and I've seen lots of bands. In the mid 90s, I started working at Zone Music, which was like Loud and Clear. It was a hub for musicians in this county, and it was run by Frank Hayhurst, who's a hero to me. I learned a lot from Frank Hayhurst, and Blair Hardman, who's right there. I've learned a lot from Blair as well from Zone Recording. So what I learned from Frank, because he was more than just a business owner, he was a real part of this community. And he taught me that, anybody could buy anything anywhere. Especially now with the internet, but to create community and be a part of the community is really important. And he was wonderful at doing that. So with with him, I learned about, he used to have a group called Musicians Helping Musicians, and we would have these concerts where it would be the Trade Winds and the End of the Beginning and Spanky's and Redwood Cafe, and we'd have bands in all the different locations on a day, and every 15 minutes we'd switch bands, and it was a crazy day to work, but we would raise money between that and silent auction for musicians that were ill and didn't have health insurance. And so that was a beautiful thing. And I'd always wanted to, like all of you, like we all want to give to nonprofits that we believe in, but most of us don't have the money to create or to give money, enough significant money to a nonprofit. So with Loud and Clear, I tried to create a place that could be used as a vehicle to raise money for causes that I believe in. So we started 13 years ago, and we've been doing these Restring Your Thing fundraisers where on a certain day we pick a nonprofit, usually an animal nonprofit or a school nonprofit, and we do $10 restrings. And so $10 includes the strings and the restringing service, and all the money goes to the nonprofit. And over the 13 years, we've raised $120,000, $10 at a time. And that's really a tribute to us using this as a vehicle to do something good, but also this community, this musical community supports this. And they bring in their guitars and we restring them every month. And it's an honor to be a part of this musical community. And I'm excited to learn more about the history from all you folks. And I appreciate being here. So we're in for a good show, you guys.
Yeah.
Tom, I'm going to put you on the spot, if you wouldn't mind, for a prompt I want to give everybody. And it's an experiment. We'll see if it works. We'll see if it doesn't. But you guys, this is probably one of the most exciting chapters of your life. You know what I mean? It's probably one of those things that when you meet new people or when you're talking about your life, there's some great memories here. Some just like once in a lifetime, just incredible stories. So, Tom, you have a couple that you were involved in Cotati. The Bill Graham story was pretty good. And then one of the King brothers. And so, while he's talking, just, think about some of your, if you have any, some of your like greatest hits, wildest stories, just things that happened in that chapter that just, you're like, man, what a crazy thing life is, because I mean, as I sit up here listening to you guys, I just think how magical it is to just go through life and get to have experiences like this just because of where you were born and the time that you were born. You guys all got to have these wonderful, wonderful experiences. So I love the little story. So Tom, if you don't mind, because these two you were telling me this week, and I thought they were a lot of fun.
So first, though, how many in this room have actually experienced the End of the Beginning during its heyday? So when Lindee was saying,
Thank you.
that this area was one of those parts of the age of Aquarius. It's the God's truth. I was in junior high and high school when it all got started, and I was watching a lot of my elders, watching you guys be a spark of the age of Aquarius, and here you all are. Honest to God, you guys are it. It was real. It was the age of Aquarius, and you guys are here to tell about it and remember it and spread that stuff. Make sure you keep sending it down. I think, I don't know, so the real quick Bill Graham story was, so Mark was teaching me how to be a manager at the Cotati Cabaret, so I go and do what I do at the Phoenix. We had Lauren Rowan playing at the Cabaret one night. Lauren always sold it out. And the show was sold out, and Jeff, the doorman at the time, came to me and said, I think Shay just turned Bill Graham down. What? Well, we were sold out. And I looked down the little sidewalk, and there's this disheveled gentleman walking away. And it is Bill Graham. Oh, my God. So I had to run after him, and I had to cajole him. He absolutely understood. This building is sold out. I'm not going to be the guy to get you closed down. No, Bill, please, come in. It's perfectly okay. I'll throw somebody else out. We'll get you in. He was so gracious. And we did get him in, and it was a Lauren Rowan night. And if you've had a chance to see Lauren, he's the man to see. Absolutely a great show. Albert King. So Albert King came and played one of his last shows at the Cotati Cabaret. By the end of the night, his bass player would not. They all showed up. The whole band showed up in Albert's Cadillac, and they pull up. We get a sound check out of them. And by the time the show goes on, Albert is so blitzed. He'd been sitting at the bar, and he was so drunk. His bass player made me give him a ride to Petaluma to catch a bus out of the Greyhound. He wouldn't ride home with Albert. And at the same time, at the end of the night, this is where I learned the cash business. You take the door, you put the money together, and you pay whoever it is out of the door at the end of the night. And you try and finagle as much as you can out of it. And I've got this big fist of 1s and 5s and 20s and 10s and God. And I finally get it all counted, and I've got it all pointed in the same direction. Everything's looking good. And I hand Albert the money in the little contract. Here's your money. And he looked at it and goes, and he throws it all on the floor. And there I am on my hands and knees picking up money for Albert King and handing it to him and say, thank you, Albert. It's been an honor. He was. I'd seen him before in San Francisco, and he was wonderful. That night was towards the end of his career, and his band really carried him well. They were phenomenal, and Albert did know when to step back and let his band take the heat. It was a wonderful night. And Mark, by the way, was not in the building.
I knew nothing about this.
One more thing.
You handled it great.
Thank you. Well, so Mark taught me a couple things. So I'd look at these contracts, and I'd be trying to put everything together for the writer. It's the writer. 2 pages of food and things the band's got to have. And I'm like, Mark, look what happens. Oh, here, do it like this. He pulled out the red pen and just started, cross this out. So to get it down to about maybe 10 items. Wow, thank God. It finally backfired on John Mayall, because the first thing you scratch is ginger ale. Nobody drinks ginger ale except John Mayall, who will not play without it. And in Cotati on a Wednesday night, it was damn near impossible to find.
Lombardi's didn't have any.
No, they were selling, but Mayall's got to have it. So there you are, John Hyatt at the bar of the Cotati Cabaret before the show. We're looking back at the inside of where the music all happened. And John says to me, you know what I like about this building so much? Gee, I really don't, Mr. Hyatt. And he goes, it's built like the inside of a mandolin. And it was. Mm-hmm. If you look at that building, I think it was the best sounding building that this county ever had.
It was great.
It was, wasn't it? Great acoustics. It was such a loss to lose it as a music house. If anybody can ever get it back, you got to get it. It was white. They painted it white the last time I was there. You got to get that paint off there.
They painted the wood white?
I think they painted it white.
Better than the Green Music Center.
Well, better than the Green. Yeah, but it used to be such a beautiful wooden room. And that's the room to somehow, someday preserve, I think. The Cotati Cabaret. Woof.
Somebody asked, is that the old women's club?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So, panel, if you have anything, greatest hits of stories of your life in Cotati music history.
I don't remember.
Oh, well, of course. Why don't we turn the cameras off, shut the doors, get the cell phones.
That would be my line.
I'm first in line. I had so many experiences that were positive, uplifting, and communicative. Part of the attitude that was, I think, started by Greg and that continued throughout the Inn and the Cabaret's tenure was let musical artists speak. I didn't always like who I had hired. I didn't understand the music. I felt it was a responsibility to give a stage for people to put stuff out. Sometimes it didn't work too well. Dramatic things happen with the big name stars, the high profile, the Neil Young calling at 3:30 one afternoon and saying, or one of his people, can we come and play this afternoon, tonight? or Van Morrison doing the same thing. That was more of a testament, though, I felt, that to how curious and accepting and accommodating the audience was in Cotati towards the shows that were being performed there. And I think that got recognized by the professional community, by the musical community, is we are comfortable, we can do what we want, and it'll be accepted. And I honestly, too many experiences to remember, oh gosh. No, if you can't say something nice, don't say
Just one wild.
anything at all.
Can we have one, just one wild one? I feel like you just had one that crossed your head, maybe. Just a wild.
No, I mean, after all I've seen, nothing is wild to me.
And that is also what Mark taught me, was if you can't say something nice about somebody, you really don't. And he really was that way.
I will say, in fact, I wanted to ask you, Richard, you had Fritz perform? You said that you had Fritz perform at College of San Mateo.
Yes.
Remember?
Yeah.
Did you send the two people, what the hell are their names? Did you send them up to me? One day I was in the office and a couple, a young couple came in and said, can you come into my office? And said, we'd like to come and play. We just released an album. We would like to come in and play and audition for you and start working. We're from Palo Alto. And they handed me the album. It was Buckingham Nicks, never heard of them.
Yeah.
And it was Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks flogging their LP. So I said, okay, you've got some product. I don't have to listen to this. I've got an open date. Come and play on this Wednesday. It's $10 and a pitcher of beer, and you play one set. I'll put you in the middle instead of the first. Great, thank you. And that was going to be about 6 weeks in the future. This isn't that wild. 4 weeks later, I got a phone call from them. We've just been asked to join Fleetwood Mac. We have to cancel our date. So I had a whole, and that was fine, but it was like, it pissed me off a little bit, but I realized that it's one of those things that the end of the beginning is known for. You sort of see some publicity of history of and they say, oh, and Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks played there. Well, almost. Oh gosh, I'm going to share this with you. Steve Jones. Steve reminded me of this. It's a website called Chicken on a Unicycle. And it is a history, chickenonAunicycle.com. It is a history and narrative of almost every nightclub in the Bay Area. And these are sheets of every performance that took place at the Inn, beginning with the 28th of September, 1968, and ending in February of 1976. Now, it's missed the next 6 years. They haven't gone to the trouble of doing that data entry. It's a phenomenal list of names you'll recognize, names you'll never recognize. Anyway, I recommend this to you. It's a fun internet time waster.
Beautiful, absolutely. One of our local heroes here was Dan Hicks. He grew up in Santa Rosa, and Dan Hicks used to love to come down on audition night because he got tired of playing the big shows. That was a fun night when he came down to audition, and half the time he'd stay at my house on Railroad Avenue because he'd had a few too many drinks. Also on audition one night, there was a guy from Southern California that came and said, hey, I'd like to play a few songs, I'm just starting out. And he got up and did a few songs, folk songs. They were okay. And afterwards I said, well, let me get your name and information. And Jackson Brown. Where do you live? And he goes, down in Orange County. You know where that is? I went, yeah. He said, what do you think of me getting a gig here? And I went, that's awful far. And I don't really think so. To be honest, I don't want you to waste your time. So that was a fun story. And then This, in the beginning, took off like wildfire after Ralph Gleason, who was the entertainment editor of the San Francisco Chronicle, grabbed a buddy of his and said, there's this place up in some town called Cotati that everybody's telling me about. Jerry Garcia and Jack Elliot and you name it. I mean, they're, Sonny Terry and Brown and McGee. What? They said the place is something special. So he grabs, Ralph Gleason grabs, who'd he grab?
John Wasserman.
Yeah, he did. He came up here and sat at the bar. I didn't even know they were here.
Mm-hmm.
And the next week, his next article came out and it said, the title was An Incubator of New Talent. And someone called and said, you got to read this. And he wrote on there, he said, I have never in my life, and the guy, his whole profession was listening to music and writing about shows. And he said, I have never, ever been in a place where everyone in the audience was reaching some kind of Greek catharsis at the same time. My God, they were all, whoa. And
I gotta tell a story.
yeah, and after that, I'll tell you, it just took off like wildfire. And that's the one good story. And last story was Jack Elliot came. He played a lot of the time because he lived up here and on the coast over here, and a good friend too. And he said, I got a friend of mine. I want to sing a couple songs after I'm finished, if that's okay with you. And I said, that's fine. He's sitting up at the bar, big old hairy thing and like that. And he came up and he said, yeah, my name's Zeke Krasinski, and I'm going to do a couple songs for you. He said, I just wrote this song, Flying into L.A. He said, it's called Bringing a Kilo into L.A. I'll be goddamn if it wasn't, you know who.
Arlo.
Yeah, it was. So,
Arlo Guthrie.
Arlo Guthrie. And my girlfriend at the time was bartending, and she wouldn't serve him a drink because he wasn't 21. So, good. Anyway, that's a couple of good
I
stories.
never stopped me. You want to go?
Oh, well, I just wanted to say that the end of the beginning, the timing was just absolutely perfect, because if you look back, I am writing a memoir, and it has a lot to do with all of this. In 1967 was Monterey Pop Festival, and it was mind-blowing. I happened to be there. I don't remember the circumstances about how I got there or got home, but I was there. And I mean, there was Janice and Beach Boys and Jefferson Airplane and Laura Nero and
Otis Redding.
it was just
The best.
an awesome show. And a lot of people who were there with the headliners were so good and so new, different kind of rock and roll that they kind of became stars overnight. There was a ton of advertising about the pop festival, about Monterey. They filmed it, so there was a documentary. It was, just blasted out over the world. And so all these people were just like major world-class stars overnight, a lot of them. But at the same time, the hippie thing was happening, and Summer of Love was happening in San Francisco. I call that chapter Peace, Love, and STDs. because we all know what happened, It started out really great, and then it just, but at the same time, Rolling Stone magazine with Ralph Gleason and Jan Wenner just started. And so there was a lot of advertising, talking about politics and rock and roll. So everything and everybody was getting a lot of press. So the groups and the singers and songwriters were working a lot in the city and getting really burned out and looking for another place, where the Grateful Dead came up to where Olampolly Park or something, and a lot of people went to Marin. Chris and I moved to Mill Valley at that time. I was hanging out with Marty Ballin and, all these people. And so there were a lot of people who moved north of the Golden Gate Bridge. And they were looking for places venues to play where they weren't getting all that media attention or the attention from their neighbors and other people. They just wanted to go and experiment and try other kinds of music, try other groupings, and there was the end. There was the end of the beginning, and Ralph Gleason was writing about it, and he, was a hop, skip, and a joint away from the city. And so the timing was just unbelievable, and yeah, that's all I can remember. Anyway, yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say one thing. The rule driving to San Francisco to see a show in San Francisco when I was a kid, make sure you're not smoking the joint when you're driving through Novato.
Yeah. Oh, I have one more thing to say. The audiences in Cotati were so appreciative. I once heard somebody say, a Cotati audience will give a standing ovation to a pile of manure. And, it didn't take anything away from the wonderful music that was happening there. It's just that we love it. Just express yourself. So anyway, that's it.
Have you seen any bands that resembled a pile of maneuver?
Yes.
We lived in exceptional times, and this could be like an AARP meeting right here in this building. I used to teach classes and counsel at the drinking driver program in Sonoma County, and oftentimes I would drift away from the topic at hand and start talking about the 60s. And some intellectual in the group, and there were not very many, I assure you, would say, you always embellish the 60s, like it's some special decade. I said, well, it was a special decade. It was probably one of the most remarkable decades in our historical time, that's for sure. So, but I was fortunate to be able to see what I saw at the end. That's one of the reasons one of the great advantages of working there, because even though I only had 2 nights, I was still able to see a lot of fabulous music.
You would have been called on at any moment.
That's right.
You could come to see any show. You just had to know you may be asked to go behind the bar, clean out the bathrooms, or sweep the floors.
Well, I was leaving that up to Michael Rubin. And there was a time when Commander Cody and the Lost Planet Airmen were playing there. Well, George Frayne had a little bit of an attitude, and that was Commander Cody, and he came behind the bar, and we were wrestling in his attempt to draw his own beer at that time, and everybody was going, hey, look, I need a beer down here, and Frayne was continuing to try to do his own thing, but more often than not, what I was able to see, and Mark mentioned McCoy Tyner. McCoy Tyner is probably one of the premier jazz pianists of all times. And I don't know if anybody saw that show, but it's remarkable because he played the piano really hard. And but that was one of the great shows that I ever saw there, and including maybe Tower of Power, I guess.
Even just as powerful.
Yeah. So, but they all gravitated to there, and that's what it all of a sudden it took on a whole life of its own, and everyone wanted to play there, and they all felt comfortable, and that's the that's the whole thing about when I'm talking to Cipollina out there. But one of the great things I remember seeing, and I say this with my own Irish heritage, is seeing Van Morrison sing Danny Boy.
Oh, God. Oh, wow.
And there's not a dry eye in a joint when that's happening.
I bet.
So anyway, Scott.
I always remember like the little subtle things. Like I loved booking Charlie Musselwhite, and got to know him a little, and we were talking backstage one time, and he goes, "Oh, I'm really thirsty. I'll go get you some water." I go, and I get him a bottle of water. I hand it to him. And he goes to open it up, and the top didn't click. It was loose. And he looks me in the eye, and he goes, "Did you dose me?" And I was waiting for him to laugh like it was a joke. And I kind of, nervous and laughed, and he goes, "Did you?" And I'm going, he goes, "The top is loose." And I'm going, "With what?" And he goes, "Acid." And I go, "Why? Well, why would you think I'd do that?" He goes, "Do you know how many times that's happened to me in the old days down at the Fillmore and whatnot?" He goes, you know not to drink something that has been popped." And I go, "Well, I sincerely swear I did not dose you." He goes, "Well, just don't let that happen again. We got to be safe." And another one was when the Studio Cafe closed, I got a wave of great bands that came over, wanted to play. One of them was, my all-time favorites was the Beat Farmers. And I didn't really know anything about these guys other than my sound man said, "You have to get these guys, they're great." So the place, we went way over capacity. It was big. And about in the middle of the show, the next thing I know, it's like before this one song started, my sound men are covering all the monitors with plastic. And I'm going, "Why?
What's going
I
on?
don't get it. Explain this to me." And they're going, just wait and you'll see. And about halfway through the song, half the people in the place rush up and start ordering Budweisers. I mean, we're selling Budweisers, it was crazy. And then all of a sudden, everybody crowds over and is shaking their Budweisers, and he hits this one word in this one song, and everybody starts spraying them with beer.
No.
Just showering the stage with beer. It was things like that. That wasn't the only people I had to cover the monitors for. There was also Schizo, but that was another thing. But he would puke on the monitors. But yeah, it's the little things, and and George from Commander Cody, he was one of the first larger acts I ever booked, and we ended up hitting it off, and we ended up drinking well into the night, and he gave me this whole thing about, he explained to me how I had overpaid him. He gave me hints on better ways to negotiate, and he gave me a lot of advice. So when it came around a couple of years later to try to book him again, I kind of lowballed him, and he went back with the original thing, and it's like, surprised. I went, "What about the talk?" And he goes, that was just hanging out, drinking beer. This is reality.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was fun. I guess I had a better time with him than Richard did.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, the small world story is my friend, the founder of the accordion festival with Jim Boggio, Clifton Buck Kaufman. His brother Stuart was married Susan, who had previously been George's longtime girlfriend. So it's like, the whole music community kind of gets intertwined somehow.
Very incestuous.
Yeah. So those just a couple of mine.
Well, this is less of a story, more of an observation. It was wonderful. The end of the beginning, I was lucky to play there. There was a magic to it. The Cotati Cabaret was the same way. There's the scene here in Cotati now is a little different. It's a little more cover band oriented, and I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm in a cover band and it's fun, but there's so many great original artists still being cultivated here in Cotati, and it's great that there's still some venues like the Phoenix Theater and I think some accordion folk probably are some young people still, and the Aaron Armstrong here works hard on the Cotati Music Festival. And so it's great that there's still outlets here in Cotati that allow original music to still be played, and we can support that.
We're sitting here, we're celebrating this time, and it's like a lot of fun to hear about it. It seems unbelievable. But I feel like when it was happening, maybe not everybody in Cotati was all in on it. Was there pushback from the cultural changes?
I'll tell you this right now. We opened up, the city of Cotati was known as a drag strip. There was a seed farm over here in a place that was real low. I didn't even call it Roanoke Park.
Just Fred ruined it.
Just Roanoke. And we opened up, and I went down to City Hall, and they said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "Oh, coffee house." And they went, "Oh, that sounds like fun." And we opened this place up, and we were running for 4 months when the Hogs started playing, and we started going crazy. And the place would have people around the corner waiting to get in. Monday morning, I got a subpoena or a paper served on me by the city of Cotati. We are pulling your use permit. Oh. What? Yeah, you didn't tell us you were gonna go crazy like this.
You didn't say you'd be successful.
No. So, a couple weeks go by. My family, I grew up with a state senator, John Dunlap in Napa. He was a very powerful attorney. And I called my dad. I said, "What the hell?" He said, "Don't worry, I'll get John on it." Well, the city attorney in Cotati, I hope you're not here right now. There's a city attorney in Cotati. It wasn't exactly, from the senator's office. So in the Chronicle, before we had our big hearing at the city council meeting, the headlines in the Chronicle was, "Cotati's last stand." A group of, wild and crazy hippies are taking over the town, a once quiet little farming community north of Petaluma, the Chicken Belt, close to a real mellow little college. And we went in there, and the city really thought they had our ass until John Dunlap stood up and just read them the riot act and quoted all this stuff and lawyer lingo. And they backed down within about 3 days and said, "Well, could you hold it down a little bit?" So, yeah, there was some old timers and I can understand it too. It was wild. I mean, this street out here, Redwood Highway, at 10 o'clock any night of the week was dead.
Yeah.
Now at 3 in the morning, it was full of just stoned out, higher than a kite hippies. And I understand why this quiet little town was pissed off. But anyway, that's just a story.
I read something. There's a story over in the museum about the town kind of having this debate about, wanting to close you down.
Yep.
And then, but there were people in town who were really supportive.
Very much
too,
so.
And said, "Oh, Greg's a good businessman. Let him try. Let him do what he needs to do and do what he wants to do. And kids just want to have fun. They need to have a place to have fun." And somebody said, "Well, I live in town and it's all too noisy." He goes, "Well, then you shouldn't live in town." And, he said stuff like that. And anyway. It was,
that was a close call.
I think there was a period when when Mark was at the Cabaret, the city of Cotati realized, there's money to be made from this.
Yeah.
Mark brought reggae into Cotati, and and it was a great time. He had one of my favorite bands, Strictly Roots, playing at the Cabaret one night, and apparently they were getting stoned in the dressing room. So the police came in, trooped them all down to the police station, wrote them all $50 tickets, and then sent them back to play.
I wasn't there then either.
Mark wasn't. And what we noticed after that, every time there was a reggae show, they'd be out in front writing tickets and making $50 a pop. But not once did they try and shut the shows down.
Well, we had a friend who grew up in Petaluma, and he was young during those days, and he would drive through with his aunt, and she'd roll the windows up downtown and say, "Don't look at nobody. Keep going."
I mean, if there's anybody that grew up in Cotati that's older than me, I'm sorry. You know? It did change from a quiet, beautiful, little sleepy town. It was no longer sleepy.
Woke it up.
Well, we also took over the city council.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
So that's all some of the problems.
Well, what about that in the Lombardis?
Yeah?
And wasn't there a little caper going on at Lombardi's?
It was marijuana
Annette,
pinching.
and a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
marijuana.
You're thinking of Annette. You think Annette Lombardi was a council person, and she and others conspired. I hate to use such a strong term.
Oh, yeah, well,
To release some contraband, a live marijuana plant, and plant it in the city hall, planting strips, and then went home.
As a former mayor, I may get involved in this discussion, but
Well, was that true or not?
that was evidence in
Yes.
fact, that I can throw a rock to where that evidence place is right now, and not in this back one back here.
It was a prank.
And that was by the way, the youngest city council in America.
That's right.
right.
And they may have made Scott and I talked about this the other night. I believe they made the cover of Rolling Stone
Well,
magazine.
there's a long article about Cotati.
So anyway,
She was passed out in the back of their station wagon with her arms wrapped around the marijuana plant.
Vicky was?
yeah, that's one way to put your community on the map. However, if you look at the Press Democrat today, they had a picture of about 100,000 marijuana plants hanging down. So it appears as though times has changed a little bit.
Well, we've always been trendsetters here.
Yes. So
I remember with
Or in that Lombardi.
Quicksilver playing out of Sonoma State. It was like a concert they were putting behind the Commons back by the lake. And what's the name of it? He was the front man was it was Valenti was late. And you're waiting and waiting and waiting. Finally, there's a motorcycle you hear coming. And he takes the motorcycle, and everybody, the whole crowd has it part ways, and he rides the motorcycle right up to the front, gets on the stage, gets the saddlebag up there, and handfuls of marijuana joints starts throwing out there. And it's just this, you just imagine that happening at a college now. It'd be out of the question, obviously.
Does anybody have any questions that they would like to propose to our panelists
There's a
here?
hand back there.
Hand back there. Very good.
Thank you.
Anybody's got any specific memories of Boggio? I mean, Boggio was a controversial guy. He was loved. He was hated. He was all that stuff, and a bag of chips. So, any memories that anybody wants to share about Boggio?
Grab Blair for that.
Did you ask about Bo Diddley?
It was Bojo, Jim Bojo.
Oh, excuse me.
Bojo.
Looking for memories of Jim Boggio.
You know, I used to go see Jim Boggio up at the Flamingo, and he would do piano bar stuff, and that was just sheer comedy. In addition to his wonderful theatrics on the keyboards and his abilities on the keyboards as well, but he was just and what he did with Blair on that one album, which one is that, Blair? The According to the Blues. There's the and then there's at the end there's a laugh session, and that's enough to raise your day if you're in the deepest, darkest depression. You just listen to that and you're up and sailing.
Let me just say too. Can we say who Jim Boggio was for people who don't know?
So
him?
Blair, would you like to step up? Blair was a great friend of Jim's.
Blair
He helped
Hartman.
with the statue and all that.
How many folks remember Jim, knew him personally? How many loved him more than most everybody in the world? Jim made everybody laugh. Wherever he went, he was the happy, happy guy outside. and a marvelous musician. He played accordion, trumpet, and so forth. And you're talking about him playing piano bar up at the Flamingo. Well, it's true. He'd play by himself, beautiful songs. He'd sing, and occasionally he'd fall asleep while he was playing. And the owner would come over, Jimmy, and he'd wake up, and he sounded as good asleep as he did when he was awake. I was in his band, the Swamp Dogs. I played bass. We were the first band at the Accordion Festival. Jim was the co-founder of the Cotati Accordion Festival. And he passed away in 1996. And I remember Sarah Baker called me and said, Jimmy's dead. And it took me about 3 seconds before I knew what she was talking about. And so we had some benefits. We had a wake at the Tradewinds that I remember, and that was a very high night and full of love and sadness. And the next day, people started saying, Blair, great idea. I said, what? A statue in the park. That's a great idea. You should do that. I said, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, you were on a bar stool last night saying you were going to put a statue in the park. Oh, okay. So I started looking, how do you do that? So you have to hire an artist and a foundry. So I put a notice out that we were taking ideas for a statue in the park, and people would submit little clay marquettes, they're called. And one guy came up to me with a pencil drawing of Jim's face, and it was just Jim. I said, do you know how to make a statue, a bronze statue? He said, yeah, I can do that. I said, okay. And then in Sebastopol, we had the Bronze Plus foundry, which is now in the Barlow. And it was a really great foundry. So I put them together, and they worked out a plan, and this was about 6 months before the Accordion Festival was coming up again. So the sculptor got to work, and he had it all set up, and people would drop in as he was working on it and say, yeah, that's looking more like him, more like him. I went over one day and I said, stop. That's him. And so he got the parts to the foundry, and they said, we'll have it done by Friday at 5, the day before the festival. I said, okay. Well, there's a lot that can go wrong. And we had to raise a lot of money. We raised $8,000 to pay the sculptor and $8,000 to pay the foundry, all done with benefits and sales of CDs and tapes and so forth. So we go over at 5 minutes to 5, the day before the festival, and they're just polishing his nose. He's ready. He's done. So then they put him in a pickup truck and brought him to the park and got a skip loader or something, a tractor, and lifted him up and built a little platform, lowered him down, covered him with a tarp. And then the festival started the next day, and it was announced we were going to unveil him at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or something. And so I went over there, and everybody gathered around, and we unveiled him, and everybody cheered, and his mom was there in a wheelchair, and she looked up and said, that's my boy.
I love it. Beautiful.
So, yeah, now his picture's taken. It's the only life-size bronze statue of a accordion player in the world, and every year at the festival, thousands of pictures are taken of him and sent all over the world, and I still miss him. Wonderful guy.
Beautiful story, man. Thanks for that.
I'd like to add something to that. As the producer of the festival, and what I've learned over the years, but what I knew about at the time, that the reason the festival has gone on for 30 years, even though Jim died in 1996, was the power of his personality. The fact that he played so many different genres, the fact that so many people respected him in the accordion world from coast to coast, is the reason that the accordion festival is still here and what it is today. It's he didn't just have a big personality, but he had a personality that people were drawn to and wanted to come and do this experiment that he threw out there. He just told everybody, you won't regret it. I'm me, and all these accordion players. And most of them at that time, they all came. I've seen the records. Most of them just came for $100 each. It was like, that doesn't fly anymore. But back then, it was just on the power of him bringing it all together. So.
I'd like to add that the first 3 years of the Accordion Festival were free. And, we got into some complications with that simply because we had to pay the musicians. And it was disrespectful for people not to be willing to do that. And they were livid. The individual fans were livid. A lot of you remember that in those days, 1990, 91, 92, 93. But 93, we actually printed out some commemorative buttons and said, oh, yeah, if we actually sell these buttons, we'll be able to take care of everything. well, no one bought any buttons, and that was the end of it. And so then we started, but again, to Jim's credit, he brought in all-star accordion players from all over the place because he commanded such great respect amongst all these individuals, and and then it kind of grew, and we were seeing really strong Zydeco and Cajun musicians coming in, Queen Ida, Clifton Chenier, and a whole bunch of other people, and then not only that, a lot of other really important people in the accordion world, and Jim was always, was the star through each and every one of those. And I too, along with Blair, was extremely sad when this happened. But he taught me a lot about being able to be comfortable behind the microphone as well. So I picked that up right after he passed, and I try to mix humor as often as possible in those moments when something needs to be injected. So anyway, yeah.
We have another question right here.
Back to the inn. Is this mic working?
Yes.
Yes.
Back to the inn. Would you guys explain and tell us about Ward Maillard and what he's up to today and his significant role at the inn?
Very significant, yeah.
Okay, you correct me now. In 1970?
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. Who is this individual that he's asking about?
Ward Maillard was a man who enabled Greg's escape from Cotati.
Word.
And the inn. He purchased the Inn of the Beginning from Greg in mid-1970, probably June or July of 1970. I wasn't here. And operated it in a very idealistic way, had an Aquarian way, had an idea that there would be a group of people who would operate by consensus. I don't think that worked very well, but he had a vision. He operated the Inn of the Beginning for actually 4 years is all it was. Continued, I think, did a little bit of remodeling. I never saw the inn before I got there in fall of 1970. Greg was long gone by then, and Ward was there, and he just operated, I think, pretty much the same. Would you think, looking?
It stayed the same.
Pretty much the same format, and again, I was the sound man. I moved into management, and in 1974, he was also following an Eastern religious Indian guru tract and was very involved in that particular spiritual path. Was going to Santa Cruz almost probably 2 or 3 times a month to be with Babaji and start a new life for himself. In 1974, as I said before, as I introduced myself, I agreed to buy the inn instead of looking for a job, because he wanted to sell the inn, and I knew that anybody who was going to buy that business was going to want to do what I was doing, not be a janitor, and for sure not buy the inn because it was such a money maker, and just saying, okay, great, here's a great business, I'll just invest this and sit down and let the staff run it. At any rate, I enabled Ward to escape Cotati, move to Santa Cruz, where he and a group of people purchased, I think, almost 300 acres of land on the side near the top of Mount Madonna in Watsonville, started a school of religious sciences and religious sessions, started yoga classes and talks by Babaji, and has developed it into something that is just incredible to me. I mean, just
Have you been there?
yes.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
You can go there too. I mean, it is open to the public.
He's like the head.
He's been the head and the president of the board of board of directors. He's developed. He teaches history. He teaches in the high school world. It's a private school that people bring their kids to. He teaches history and social studies, I would say, and he's developed a curriculum, the culmination each year of which is the students have been working for maybe a couple of years even, go at least to Washington, D.C. and have a civics lesson, where because his father had been a long-time congressperson for the county of Marin,
Yeah.
I forget his name.
Well, Maillard.
Maillard. Yeah, Maillard.
Bill, maybe.
I don't remember Dad's name. Bill, thank
Bill
you.
Yeah.
Because Bill Maillard had been a congressman for so long, there were an awful lot of contacts, and the Maillard name opens many, many doors. So these kids go in there, and they will have a meeting of, let's say, 25 teenagers chatting with the Secretary of State of that particular administration. And then other meetings too with local senators and other people who are just, what's it all about? And really giving a hands-on lesson. He's also I've also seen curriculum of something called the Happiness Project. This is pretty big, where there are schools in Kenya who are involved, schools in India who are involved, the school in Watsonville who are involved, and they're all asking the question, what is happiness? And they go off and talk to the Dalai Lama. They talk to politicians. They talk to leaders in various countries,
it's really incredible.
and then report back as a community.
I'm
And
so glad you know about all of this in such detail. It's really interesting. I've looked him up. I would love to go and.
Well, Mailliard is how to spell his name, and the school is Mount Madonna, the Mount Madonna Center.
Yeah.
It's been going on since 1974 in Watsonville, and they've got dormitories. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I my first recollection is when he heard I was trying to sell it. He had been there with some friends and thought of it as an Alice's Restaurant.
Yeah.
And he came up, he called me and said, I'm coming up from, my dad's coming up from San Francisco, and we want to look at the books. And I had, I didn't just have a set of books. I had a couple sets of books. One for the IRS, potential buyer, and a real set, But anyway, he walks in with this distinguished gentleman, Ward. I'm Ward Meyer, and this is my father. And this guy looked like the president, a senator, a congressman. And we talked for a while and looked at the books. And then he said, I want to talk to my dad for a while. And I could hear him in the other room. And I could hear William Myers go, you ain't going to buy this place. It'll be the last goddamn thing I want you to do. Ward, don't do it. And he comes back in. I said, well, what do you think? And he goes, well, I'll let you know. And I thought, I'll never, ever see this guy again. Scratch that. I won't even need his phone number. And I'll be darned, 2 days later he calls and says, we're going to buy it. I'm going to buy it. I go, absolutely beautiful. So he came up, and that was my Ward Meyer story.
I have a little mystery. It's always been a mystery to me, but Ward moved up here. He was living up here, and he became a very good friend of all of us at the Cloud Farm. All of us at Cloud Farm, mostly women. I think David knew Ward, and this was when Phil and Marcy lived there too. And it was going through a change and evolution, but. Remember the guys, Ward was one of them, put barnwood all up inside the living room and the dining room of the farm and built a loft. And we weren't supposed, there was a rental, we weren't supposed to be doing that. And then you and you took me out to breakfast, I think at the Changing Hands Cafe. I remember that little greasy spoon.
Free breakfast.
And we talked about you selling the inn or something like that. And then the next day, or the day after that, Ward took me out to breakfast at the same place. We sat in the same booth.
Coincidence?
Huh?
Was that a coincidence?
I don't know. I think he was kind of asking me for a character reference.
Yeah.
Of you.
I can only think of one person that I could give you. Let me think, who could I be talked to? Nobody around. Lindee Reese. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. I don't know if that was why. There's still a mystery to me. I do not remember how that happened, but there was, and then it sold. So
Yeah.
hey, Okay.
Everything worked out.
You know, Ward was a pretty supportive person of anything communal.
That's right.
Oh, Ward was wonderful, wonderful guy.
He was very helpful, so I can picture him having been aware of your situation and
Yeah,
whether he
must have been.
continually visited or just was supportive in his own mind.
Yeah, he was a prince of a guy.
Check with Ed.
Yeah. We got to get Ward here in a couple years, sounds like.
Right. Our founding father is, I have a song about Jerry Green and the trade winds, and he's requested
Oh,
that I
yeah,
sing it.
let's just do that.
Oh, all right. We have just, you want to tell the audience in the mic what it is?
Yeah, we've got it set up already.
How many of you knew Jerry Green?
Oh, yeah, Jerry.
How many of you drank with Jerry Green?
Jerry Green.
Tell us a little bit about Jerry before you sing the song.
There used to be a door between the inn and
Jerry
the
was
winds.
kind of a wannabe hoodlum with a wannabe heart of gold, I think is the way I think of it. I remember the night he wanted to kill Markland. Jerry had a gold Cadillac, but he always had a revolver under the seat. And we had to get him so drunk he passed out, so he couldn't do that. But somebody else want to share about Jerry?
Go ahead, sing your song.
You know, Jerry was actually, he used to brag about that he was a sports star. I never could believe it. If you drinking with him, I found in the yearbook one time he was a sports star annually. He was a local athletic hero.
Yeah.
Really? Go figure. Go figure.
Really? He made an impression on me.
Yeah. He would.
A friend of mine taught me this Merle Haggard song way before the end, and I could never remember any of the verses except the first one, so I stole that first verse and added a few more for Jerry and the trade winds. Turn on the amp. Pull cues, bar stools, and a 5-foot TV screen. My new home has a flashing neon sign. You can drive by and see me anytime you want to. I'm always at the wind still closing time. Who's up next? Put $1 in the jukebox. Can I bum one of your cigarettes? Give me the dice I lost. Well, just put it on my tab. I'm always at the wind still closing time. Get off 101, turn by the Foster Freeze. Cruise in behind the bank, the parking's always free. Slip in the side door, go up to the bar, and tell them what you want. And John, Joe, and Jay will take care of you till closing time. Here she comes, she's moving in for the hustle. She grabs your eyes, she stands there, she just stares. But wait a minute, baby, hold on. I think you and me been through this before, 'cause you're always at the wind still closing time. Jerry Green went to heaven. St. Peter said to him, Sheriff man, you're just in time. The second race is about to begin. And we got you a gold Cadillac with a pistol on the floor. everything's slick, and you'll be back counting the drawer at closing time. The ghost of Jerry Green counts the drawer at closing time. That's in Cotati, California, planet Earth, USA.
Beautiful, David.
You know, Richard was talking about Max, the bartender at the inn, and that was his territory. And one night, this guy pulled a knife out and was mad at Max, and he's going, "Come on, sucker, come on, get over the boy, I'm gonna cut you." And Max didn't look at him at all. He went to the guy next to him and said, "What'll it be?" And the guy goes, "A draft?" Max walks very slowly over, draws him a draft, sets it down, and looks at the guy and says, "You look really silly with that thing, man. Why don't you put it away?" Collects the money from the other guy's draft. I was very impressed.
Any other questions from the audience? Here we go.
In addition to all the great live music that we've got going on in Cotati, do you have any suggestions or wisdom to share about how to keep our musical heritage alive in the future and how to bring more live music to Cotati?
You know, if you have a chance to go and hear live original music, do it, and pay the musicians.
Yeah, pay them.
That will keep a venue alive and musicians working.
You know, I think to that point, so I'm sitting at this table with some of my heroes. I wanted to do exactly what these guys did. And once I was able to do that, I found something out. Part of it is an incredible trip. It's really a wonderful gig. But you better not plan on making money doing it because there's none to be had. None of these guys are driving Rolls Royces. I don't think.
If you want it to keep going, if one wants it to keep going in your community, then be a part of the solution. That's the way. And we live in a place where there's a lot of other people who are supportive of it. So this is a place you can do it.
Well, my name's John. I'm with the Historical Society, and the past of this has been an amazing trip for all of us. And I'm happy to say that in the present moment, we have something akin to that that's like, not the nursery of it, but a small incarnation of it. Our good friend Patrick McCarty here is our minister over here at Church of the Oaks. And Patrick, you want to say a little bit about what you're doing with a current free cabaret show once a month, bringing in talent? I just saw somebody from Nashville or something come in and recording star. Patrick, you...
Yeah, I can talk. Thank you very much. Music is part of my life. I started playing in my grandpa's band in 1956. And from then till about a month ago, I've been playing honky tonks my whole life. But the consciousness of live music is really something that I've always loved my whole life. Starting January 28th, that's a Saturday night, the Community Cabaret at the Oaks will be beginning its 6th year. The last Saturday night of every month, we have a free live music concert. Wow. And it's designed to bring your family. We've had kids with balloons and light sticks making happy noise. We set big long tables and everybody brings, I don't know, hummus casserole, whatever people want to eat. But we have local bands. This fellow right here, Rick with the Bluebirds, he's going to be there the last Saturday night in February. He's one of our big draws. So just come and all these people planted seeds and they're still growing and we're still planting seeds about music in Cotati.
Yeah, what time on that?
5 to 7.
5 to 7. See you there, everybody. Now, do you have a question? All right. You know what? She had a question. You already asked one, right? Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Hi, as a native Point Raisin, we have our own folk tales of the diaspora musicians that were escaping the hate when things got too crazy. So this just brings back a lot of stories. But I moved to Sonoma County to be a student beginning '68 until '74. Still live here in Cotati. So my question is, did you have any Beatles sightings or encounters or Stones or any of the really big name bands at that time that came through town? Because we have rumors of Paul coming through Inverness and other stories like that.
We could make one up.
Do hallucinations count?
I'll tell you, it amazing how many of the big stars, not the giant stars that we saw, but just about every band and the biggest San Francisco rock and roll musician, they love to play music. My God, they played with so many different bands. They would show up with this band or that band and play pedal steel, or it was amazing that people that you would see right here in Cotati or somewhere here in Sonoma County, just mind blowing, because it really was a center of great people who enjoyed music. So no famous people.
Well, there were a few. Mark brought in John Entwistle from The Who.
Yeah.
Played the bass. He had his own band.
Hard just to remember.
That was after I was gone, but also Jack Bruce played at the Cabaret too.
And I think Huey Lewis was in the beginning cabaret player, right?
Yeah.
But that's not a Paul McCartney or a Billy Joel
Jack Bruce?
or a Madonna or a Bruce Springsteen or.
Geez, you're
He might be
kidding.
a
John
Bruce Springsteen.
Entwistle.
Well, Jerry Garcia many times, right? How many times did Jerry Garcia come through?
I don't know, six or eight times in various configurations between Old and In the Way, and for his bluegrass world, New Riders of the Purple Sage, with his countryish world, and his Merle Saunders and
Van Morrison is not.
that too, and Lightning Hopkins.
Yeah.
He's no Paul McCartney.
Janis Joplin coming through, that was a big deal.
I don't know when that was.
I think Paul McCartney ripped off Lightning Hopkins. Did.
Right.
Janice never played.
Janice never.
That's interesting because there's a lot of information online about how she did, so that's very good. I'm glad you say that.
The person that worked for Greg, who worked for Ward, and worked for Mark.
Yeah.
Janice never played.
Interesting.
Mother played after she left the band, but not Janice.
The
She didn't
story
jam with
is, though, here's the story. All you needed to do was say that she played here, and most of the people were so stoned, they really don't remember. Oh, yeah, she was at the end of the beginning. It was just a rumor. I don't know who started it.
I turned down the Doobie Brothers.
Oh, no.
I was tending bar and this guy called and said, we just had a hit record and we're going on a tour and we want to play for 5 nights at your club to get ready for the tour. And I said, well, what's your band? He said, the Doobie Brothers. I said, I'd never heard of you, man. And he's got really uptight. I got all the live music I needed right in Cotati. I didn't need to pay any attention to anybody else. I want to say something too. I worked with children, and there's a hero in this room, Tom Gaffey, who I used to take my daughter to the Phoenix. She wanted to go, and all of these kids in Cotati and Petaluma that had nowhere to go to the Phoenix Theater with their skateboards. They were accepted for who they were. He had music for them, and he kept it going by the skin of his teeth. I have no idea how the county let him stay open with that place. The men's room there needed probably about
It's world famous.
$100,000 worth of work. I don't know how he did it, but he did it, and he deserves to be honored now. Everybody, yay, Tom! Yay, Tom! Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, but,
Bravo, brother!
no.
Yes.
Thank you. I will say this about that. Our men's room, for what it is, has been featured yearly in some magazine in Norway. Because there's a photographer out of San Francisco that comes in every year to do their spring fashion spread for Eurotrash fashion. So it's really, I wouldn't change a thing up there. You know. I wouldn't use it, but I wouldn't change a thing.
All right, so any more questions? Okay, we're getting close. We're getting close.
Well, mine is more of an appreciation for you. I was raised here in Cotati. My parents moved into Cotati in 1960 and bought one of the two grocery stores. It wasn't Lombardi's, it was Cotati Plaza Market in the plaza.
Sure.
And so the college came in, so it might be your fault that my father did decide to leave the store in the 1968. He sold it to the partner, got kind of crazy down there, right? And I have a story, you know, these are shared memories that are just fabulous. I am a docent at the museum, and I give the walking tour.
Oh,
and
yeah.
when we get to the end of the beginning, I've got to tell you, you know, it's the favorite story. So you've burst a few bubbles, but we like to tell some myths too, right? Janis Joplin and all of that. But since you have a list. And I have a story for each one of you. So Mark, I have many siblings, and one of my sisters gave me a call one night, and I think it was like early 80s, and got arrested in front of the cabaret, and I had to go bail her out of jail. And then who was another one? So I love this gentleman, Cochrane.
Greg.
Yeah. So it was 1960. I was a teenager working at my parents'
Well, we
grocery
let you
store.
in.
And well, they would come
No
over.
problem.
The students would come over from the inn, and my father said, "You have to card them, you know." And I'm like, "I'm not going to card that cute, you know, guy from the college." Never did. So. And then this gentleman walked in today, and I recognized him because when we do the walking tours, you're just so fabulous. You invite us in to come into your store and share the story about that old building.
It's a beautiful
and what you're doing.
building. If you haven't come by, you should check it out. It was built in 1917. Used to be an Oddfellows Hall, and we did our best with the money we had to recreate what it was like originally. So there's a beautiful ceiling in there. It's a great spot. So I welcome you to come take a look.
Yeah, it's fabulous. Thank you very much. You're always very inviting. And you had come into the museum the other day when I was working, and came in with all the artwork from the Accordion Festival. So thank you. And you owned the cabaret or the inn?
The inn for 97 through 2000.
Okay.
The late Carnation.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. Great stories. Really, really appreciate it. And I'll be telling your stories as I do the tours.
Excellent.
And I'll get more history, and I'd like to talk to you all afterwards too, so I can share your great true stories.
I think where Joan was when the inn was just beginning was the Wigwam Cafe.
Oh,
Yeah.
It was the Wigwam.
That is correct.
Hi, my name's Erin. It's been really awesome to listen to all of the amazing stories that everyone here has shared about the inn. My partner and I live on Sonoma Mountain, and we're not as, we haven't lived here as long as a lot of the people that have been sharing stories. But we have been inside of the inn recently, and, as it's been for rent for a while, and I'm just curious to know what you guys think about, the next stewards of whoever will be in that space, and what your hopes and dreams are for the next younger generation that might be taking it over.
It's an uphill battle with that location now. I talked to Anna, the landlord, quite a bit about it, and she had, when she first put it up for sale, there was a fellow that from Santa Rosa he wanted to come in for 1 year rent free to remodel it.
Yeah.
And she turned him down. That was a couple of years ago. That was a big mistake to turn him down. It's just an uphill battle. But to another note, as far as stewards, when I ran the inn in the 90s, old timers would come in and they'd go, only if these kids didn't know what a rich history this place had and everything we experienced. I go, you have to understand, they're experiencing their thing now, and they're going to look back at this as their rich history. I mean, each generation has their own rich history. Just the end just kind of permeates.
Last question.
The Doobie Brothers didn't play, but Bill McPhee played, and he's now a Doobie, and he's wonderful, and I forget the name of the band. But what I wanted to comment about, music today, until the virus shut it down, the Redwood Cafe was an incredible venue, and someone might come along and buy that. Today, what?
It's sold, one of the chefs bought it. Yeah. One of the chefs bought it. They're not doing music currently, but Rena?
And I'd like to hear about that because Michael wanted to retire, and he has the Aquas Cafe in Petaluma, which is a little tiny place, and so I'd like to hear because that's our opportunity. It was an incredible nightclub. Yeah. They had such good music there all the time, but I'd like to hear what's going on with that, and that's our future opportunity. That's our next into the beginning for the county, not just Cotati.
Could be.
Okay.
All right, folks. Any closing thoughts before we wrap up?
Let's go mingle.
Okay, I have one closing thought. There was a board game called So You Want to Be a Rock and Roll Star, and you could land on one space that said you played a gig in Cotati, lose one turn. All of these guys played a gig in Cotati and they lost a couple turns. Thank God they did. Because they had to hang out in this town for quite a while.
Well, let's leave it at that. Panel, thank you so much. Let's give them a round of applause. And thank you all for attending.